Good afternoon. I am Willie James Mason Jr., Emergency Management Program Coordinator for Alabama Department of Public Health. And the purpose of this training is for animal defense spray. The animal defense spray training objectives. At the end of this session, employees will be able to demonstrate, outline, and explain the following. Animal defense spray purpose, ADS ingredients. You're going to hear me say that acronym a lot, ADS, and that's animal defense spray. Effects of ADS to the eyes, respiratory system, and skin. Understanding the physical and psychological effects of ADS. Applicable Alabama laws, use of force standards of U.S. Supreme Court case Graham versus Connor. Response factors and reasonable employee response. Also, we will go over the policy review, requirements to carry ADS, consideration prior to using ADS, ADS deployment and consideration, and factors that affect the usage of this spray, inappropriate usage and reporting requirement and procedures, proper storage, distribution, expiration, and transportation. Understand and be familiar with appropriate decon methods. So, again, the purpose, the department is concerned for the welfare and safety of the employees in the field for ADPH. And it'll be used for areas where you got dogs, hogs, and other animals roaming unrestrained and may be aggressive. And this training supports the use of ADS by employees in the field to protect themselves. The spray will only be used for protection and on animals only. Therefore, you must understand the use and the policy for safe use. And therefore, we will give you guidance on proper storage, distribution, expiration, and transportation so you can carry this spray safely and efficiently. Olerizing capsium, also known as OC or pepper spray. It is an inflammatory derived from organic compound mostly found in potent pepper plants. It's designed to affect inflammatory reactions such as dilating capillaries. Its pungent odor, and it also can be found in chili peppers as well. The color is orange and red in color. So basically, it's a pocket belt clip on the how to we're using. The spray line is approximately 10 feet. The canister is about 1.5 ounces and the maximum number of shots are 12. Like I said before, the color is going to be orange or red. The ADS dimensions is 6.54 by 4.76 by 1.69 inches. And it contains 1% calcium, and the rest of the makeup is nitrogen 0.24%, mineral oil 89.3%. These are the details that make up the ADS. ADS is in a canister, in a stream delivery. It's compact, it's easy to carry. It comes with a quick aim safety cap and integrated for quick access on your belt clip. And it's medically safe, and it doesn't leave any lasting effects. It is easy to carry and easy to reach when needed. And remember to always position your finger below the nozzle. You do not want to block the stream when using this spray. What does it affect? The ADS affects three main areas: the eyes, the respiratory system, and the skin. You want to aim for the facial area. And the reason being, if you hit the eyes, it will give the subject a painful burning sensation. And we want to produce involuntary eye closure, profound tearing, visual impairment, and protracted redness. We know eye closure is the best tactical advantage. Another area that this ADS attacks is the respiratory system. When it attacks the respiratory system, we have pronounced mucus sensation, coughing, shortness of breath, and also inflammation of the membrane, lips, and nose. It also affects the larynx, which is the vocal cords, and it makes it very difficult to breathe, which then in return would make tightness of chest, which then would incapacitate the subject. Also, it affects the skin, intense burning sensation, possible inflammation, and redness of the skin surface. Skin exposure can cause pain, redness, and itching. The pain associated with this skin exposure can be prolonged for several hours in persons who are not adequately decontaminated. The physical effects: involuntary closure of the eyes, swelling in the lining of the throat, temporary paralysis of the larynx, uncontrollable choking, gagging, and gasping for breath, and copious tearing, burning and swelling of the mucous membrane, inflammation of the skin similar to burns, acute burn sensation, intensified by moisture. And the effects of ADS on animals. The effects is very similar to the effects on human, but only more severely. And you must remember that dogs have a much more sensitive nose than human. Depending on where you do the research, it could be 100 times more sensitive than a human. That animal will get excessive tearing, sneezing, irritation of the respiratory tract, and pain in the eyes, nose, mouth, and lungs, which will cause that subject to be incapacitated. And that subject is referring to an animal. Effects on the animal, like I said, is pretty much the same as a human. Gagging, shortness of breath, wheezing, burning in the throat, inability to vocalize. So for a dog, for example, the inability to bark. Psychological effects would be disorientation, anxiety, panic. These effects can be greatly reduced if the animal has been exposed to ADS spray previously. So you got to keep in mind, Alabama does have laws for the use of pepper spray. And these laws came from the Alabama Code of 1975, Section 13A627, the use of pepper spray. The crime of criminal use of a defense spray is committed if the perpetrator used a defense spray, including but not limited to pepper spray, foam, and other self-defense chemical spray against another person in the commission of a crime against a law enforcement officer while the law enforcement officer is performing his or her official duties. And this is a Class C felony. So keep in mind, the purpose of the ADS is to be used on animals only and not human. But the misuse of it is a Class C felony. And Alabama has sentences for imprisonment for felonies. And as we see, for a Class C felony, it's not more than 10 years or less than 1 year, and 1 day and must be in accordance with subsection B of section 1518-8, which is the probation drug or pre-trial diversion plan, unless sentencing is pursuant to section 13A 5-9 habitual offender. So keep in mind, so basically what that is telling you is, in Alabama law, if you're a habitual offender, let's say you get a Class C felony for misuse of pepper spray in a previous matter, and you get charged with it again, what that's telling you is that that charge could be upgraded to a Class B felony. Now you could face more than 20 years, not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. An Alabama Code of 1975 also has fines for felony, in which the misuse of pepper spray, which will be a Class C felony, not more than $15,000. Also, in that code book of Alabama of 1975, section 13A-11-14, cruelty to animals. And remember this, a person commits the crime of cruelty to animal if, except as otherwise authorized by law, he or she recklessly or with criminal negligence subjects any animal to cruel mistreatment, or subject any animal in his or her custody to cruel neglect, or kills or injures without good cause any animal belonging to another. And animal cruelty is a Class A misdemeanor. And remember this, and we're going to touch back on this subject on if you kill or injure without good cause. And the sentences for a Class A misdemeanor is not more than 1 year. And sentences shall be a definite term of imprisonment in the county jail or to hard labor for that county within the following limitation. For the Class A, not more than 1 year. For Class B misdemeanor, not more than 6 months. And for a Class C misdemeanor, not more than 3 months. And of course, misdemeanors and violations has fines as well. And a Class A misdemeanor for animal cruelty will not be more than $6,000. In the use of force case law, and we have a use of force case law, which is Graham versus Connor. And that is an important case because the reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged by the perspective of a reasonable peace officer on the scene and not with 20/20 vision hindsight. So let me go in more detail with it. For example, in dealing with a peace officer case, if I go on scene to arrest a suspect, a violent suspect, and when I arrived on scene, I have a legal standing to be there because I was dispatched there. And if it's a violent suspect and there's an imminent threat, and I shoot and kill this suspect that had a cell phone in his hand, but I perceive that cell phone to be a weapon with the information I had at the time, and not hindsight 20/20, which showed that cell phone not to be a weapon, but I perceived that cell phone to be a gun at that time, but hindsight showed that it was a cell phone, I would be reasonably justified in that use of force case. So you got to remember that in 1989, Supreme Court decision in Graham versus Connor established that reasonableness standard for when an officer can legally use force in a suspect and how much can be used. The test is whether or not a reasonable officer on the scene faced with the same circumstance would use the same force. And that'll be critical on you working in the field. Do you have the right to be there? Was that animal an imminent threat? So keep those things in mind. and you want to do hypos in your mind prior to going out in the field, and it would better prepare you for situational awareness on the use of force. So, reasonable force. What is reasonable force? The amount of force deemed necessary to stop the threat, to prevent escape. But what if it's excessive force? The use of force necessary to accomplish the task. That's going above and beyond. Excessive force is when you use more force than necessary to accomplish the task. For example, excessive force would be if you are in the field and a pit bull becomes a threat and is starting to attack you. Once that pit bull is incapacitated and no longer a threat, you must stop using force. And if you continue to spray that pit bull, once it's no longer a threat, you have used excessive force. And force is not used to discipline or punish. ADS is only used for defense. So when you're out in the field, we have response factors. You got to keep in mind, an employee has several different factors. It depends on your age, your size, your gender, the number of employees that are together that can affect the outcome, your training, your level of experience, your fitness. All these things will come into play. So keep that in mind. You know, you're easily exhausted. What's your physical fitness level? Injuries, the type of animal. You know, it would be a big difference in the field if you're getting attacked by a pit bull compared to a Yorkie. That's a big difference in the type of animal. The distance from an animal, the position of an animal. You know, do you have an escape route? Do you have enough time to get in your vehicle to leave the scene to keep from deploying that ADS? Animal factors. Is that animal a threat to you? The aggression of the animal, the size of the animal, the number of animals. So keep in mind when you're making these response factors, case study has been done that a law enforcement officer with a holstered weapon will not be able to draw their weapon from an approaching suspect within 21 feet with a knife. So if that officer have his gun in his holster, a suspect can get to that officer within 21 feet with a knife and attack that officer before he can draw his weapon. And we know an animal, especially a dog, is usually faster than a human. So, and we know that our defense spray can reach up to 10 feet. So, and with that being said, a dog could probably cover 10 feet in approximately 1/5 of a second. So you have to have situational awareness when you're out in the field. You know, take that extra time to scan the area, you know, on your way to the scene before you get out and while you out. Environmental factors. You know, the location, where you at. Can you use anything as cover? You know, a cover would be a fence. Can you use the fence to protect yourself from the dog? You know, before you enter a fence, you know, wait, take that extra 20, 30 seconds to a minute to scan the area, you know, once again, depending on the employee factor, you know, your age, your size, your gender, your fitness, weather condition, you know, is it night, is it day, is it early morning, can you see with the lighting, the terrain, are you going up a hill, down a hill, is it raining, is it snowing, and other exigent circumstances are the response factors in making decisions. So the reasonable employee response, and this is very critical on the objective reasonable test. And I say objective reasonable test. It didn't say subjective reasonable test. Would another employee placed in your situation or similar training and experience believe the level of force you use was reasonable? So we're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. But would another employee placed in that same situation or similar training and experience believe the level of force you use was reasonable? So that's where this training come in at, and ongoing training, coming up with hypos and talking it over with your supervisors and other co-workers on a reasonable employee response. Reports. Reports need to be clearly explain why you chose the force option you did in all circumstances, especially the animal action you were faced with during the incident. Everything matters. So you want to follow up and do ADPH, automated report of accidents and incident, or area policy, area report. So you will go on the ADPH website and you can log in and do that. But you want to make sure you clearly explain. Write down every detail as soon as possible, because you want to clearly explain everything from beginning to end. The use of ADS policy review. Employees must be authorized to carry ADS and must complete required training. So this training is a requirement to carry ADS. And remember, it's only used for animals, strictly against animal for self-defense, and you must reasonably proportionate to the need. It must be a need to use this ADS. Whenever possible, you want to be upwind and uphill. In low wind condition, avoid entering spray area, because if you got a wind blowing 15 to 20 miles per hour back towards you, you will get in the backsplash, and you could become incapacitated and become part of the situation. And also, you want to maintain a safe distance of at least 4 to 6 feet. Use single spray bursts between 1 to 3 seconds. And you usually have 15 shots in that 1.5 ounce can, so you want to sparingly use it. You want to make sure you're not less than 4 feet from that animal, because not only are you getting in the danger zone, but that ADS could actually backsplash on you. But remember, you have to complete the area on the day of the incident, but no later than the end of the next workday. No exception. You have to complete that report on what happened as soon as possible. Employees must give incident notice to the property owner on the day of the incident, but no later than by the end of the next workday. Same thing. You have to report that notice to that property owner. Also, the requirement, like I said, you must work in the field to carry this spray. You may request authorization to carry it while on duty. Must complete all required training and receive authorization from the department. Only use department-issued ADS as a defense spray while on duty. You can't use your own. No exception. You can't say, well, I left my spray at home, so I use my personal spray in my car. Not acceptable. You must use the department-issued spray. And use as self-defense only. Do not use on people. Its intended ADS is for animals only. Employees' immediate supervisor shall ensure that all requirements are met by the employees before issuing ADS. So you must have all the required training and go through all the steps so you can carry this, and your supervisor will ensure that all this is taking place before you are issued it. Prior to using the OC spray, always remember, if you're not part of the incident, that's the safest route. But attempt to remove yourself. Take those extra 1 to 2 minutes to keep yourself out of that threat or danger zone. Announce to the threat, stop, with verbal commands. We know all the time, if possible, we know all the time it's not feasible. You have to skip steps sometime. You might not have that option to give that command. But make sure you articulate everything that happened in your report if you have to use ADS. Consider the potential effects of bystander in yourself. For example, you're in a closed room, a small room, and sometime if you get to deploying that ADS, you can become part of the problem. You can be in that contamination zone, become incapacitated. So keep that in mind. And you want to spray the animal with the ADS. Not humans, the animal. You know, when to use ODS spray? Self-defense only. Employee may use when you reasonably believe that it is necessary to protect yourself from an imminent threat from an animal. Once the threat is incapacitated, ADS is no longer justified. So once the threat is incapacitated and you continue to use the ADS, that would be excessive force. And excessive force is not necessary if the threat has been incapacitated. Deployment consideration. You know, you want to make sure you're aiming at the animal facial area. Remember, you want the minimum distance is 4 feet. Remember, the max of your ADS is 10 feet. So you don't want to be outside of 10 feet, and you don't want to be less than 4 feet. And you want to get off the X after spraying, not in the spray, because you want to be uphill, upwind as possible. So you want to move away from the spray. You know, move after applying. Get off the X. We call that the X is the spot you spray on. And when you spray, you want to get off the X. And be careful for your wind conditions. So you must observe, you know, the wind conditions, situational awareness, splashback, your environment, contamination. If you're in a small, enclosed area, how could that affect you? Also, we want to give verbal command if possible. And that's the key word, if possible. It's not always possible, but we want to attempt to give verbal commands. Minimum 4 feet distant from nozzle to target. As I explained before, safe distance 4 to 6 feet from the animal. That's the ideal feet, because if you get right around that 9 to 10 feet, you could unconsciously step out of that range, and the spray won't reach that target being further away out of that range. Spray in 1 to 3 second bursts. Additional spray may be used if initial or subsequent bursts prove ineffective. You know, you're aiming for the eyes, nose, and mouth on the facial area. Once the animal is incapacitated, the use of ADS is no longer justified. Keep in mind the wind, the speed, the direction, high humidity along with heat. You know, it affects the effectiveness of the spray. Since we know when it's hot and humid, the spray don't linger in the air as long when temperatures are much cooler. So keep that in mind. Heavy downpour if you're in the rain. So that rain could break up that stream and not reach the target. So have situational awareness on these factors that affects the use of ADS. It is only used for defense and not punishment, discipline, retaliation, or treatment. Any employee who observes another employee using ADS inappropriately shall report the incident to their immediate supervisor at the time of misuse or reasonably thereafter. And that's the key word, reasonably thereafter. If a person is injured, immediately call 911. So for example, if me and Joe are out in the field and I inappropriately use my ADS, but Joe waits 6 months to report it, that is unacceptable. Joe must report it immediately that I misused that in a reasonable amount of time. Employees who violate this policy may be subject to disciplinary action or criminal prosecution. So keep that in mind. You do not want to misuse this ADS. Recommended topics to include in your report. You know, any witnesses that was there, contact information, verbal dialogue before, during, and after the use. You know, what was that animal doing? You know, the lack of commands in that animal. You know, what made you deploy that ADS? Describe the encounter. You know, how you followed the protocol, including but not limited to details of your attempts to avoid the situation, your technique used, and the results of the situation. So that is critical information, and it must be included in reporting use of ADS. Proper storage, distribution, expiration, and transportation. This is critical. We must store it in a locked, well-ventilated area, protect containers from sunlight, never store in your vehicle. Do not expose to temperatures above 122 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius. Keep away from heat and other ignition source. We know it's in an aerosol can. It could catch a fire and explode. Keep away from oxidizing agency and watery environment. You always want to store the canister upright and without excessive load on the top that could depress the top and ending up using the spray. So you want to keep it upright. Do not store in condition where temperatures are below freezing, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Specific hazard for storage. Contents are under pressure and it may explode if heated. So just remember, do not leave it in your vehicle. We know vehicles, even though if it's 100 degrees outside, vehicles can get much hotter than that just by sitting in the sunlight. So you want to store it away in a well-ventilated area and don't leave it in your vehicles. So we're going to give you the how-to manufacture label, you know, for storage. You know, you want to keep in a locked container in a cool place not to exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit in temperature. When removing ADS and decontamination kit from the storage site, employees must sign out items on an inventory sheet for a specified time period. Sign in the item when placed back into the storage at the end of the time period. And if ADS and decon kit is needed longer, the employee shall repeat the process for additional time. And make sure every time you use it, you know, you check it in and out. Because it's going to be that one time that you need to use it that you didn't follow procedures. So make sure you follow the distribution procedures every time. So the expiration date, normally expires between 3 to 4 years after purchase date. All defense spray and cartridges shall be replaced annually. So we'll make sure that you have the most potent spray. And you cannot keep the old spray. You must turn it back in when you get your new spray. If cartridges are not date stamped, the date of the purchase shall be written on the can with inedible ink. And decon kit will be replaced before expiration date as well. So remember, in order to get a new one, you must turn your old spray in. So transportation, and you're responsible to follow the manufacturer instruction for care and storage. It may be transported in your vehicle, on your person, meaning on you individually or in a pack with the following transportation condition. Sealed in a plastic container that will be provided by ADPH. Employees carrying ADS within a plastic container shall make every effort to make sure we prevent unintentional discharge. A safety lock or device in place that protects the trigger mechanism from accidental discharge. And remember those temperatures we're going to store it in. Make sure we store it away from direct sunlight, not exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit or below freezing, which is 32 degrees. Do not store it in vehicle. When you get out your vehicle, you must get the spray out. Extreme hot or cold temperatures can damage or weaken the canister pressure, resulting in not working properly or accidental discharge, and we do not want that. So we're not going to store it in our vehicle. Remember, if it get on your skin, you want to wash with soaps and other water. You want to wash with soap and water. Take off any contaminated clothes and launder before reuse. We know that if you can remove the clothing normally, that will remove 50 to 70% of the contamination. Another first aid measure would be to rinse. If in the eyes, rinse cautiously with water for several minutes. Remove contact lens if present, and continue rinsing for at least 10 minutes or until satisfied. You may have to rinse for 30 minutes. If inhaled, you want to move to fresh air, administer oxygen if breathing is difficult. If breathing has stopped, give artificial respiration and seek medical attention immediately. And call 911 if somebody's been affected by it as soon as possible, or even yourself. Do not induce vomiting unless instructed to do so by a medical professional. Never give anything by mouth to an unconscious person. Also, this first aid measure skin contact symptoms. Product may dry and crack your skin. You may feel itchy. Your skin may turn red. Might make you feel uncomfortable, irritation. Your eyesight can become blurry. Your pupil will become dilated, redness, irritation, tearing may also be associated with exposure. And that redness could last for days, depending on how bad your eyes were irritated. Inhalation symptoms may cause respiratory irritation, dizziness, shortness of breath, vertigo, headache, possible unconsciousness, especially in patient, if someone has asthma or anything of those nature. Ingestion symptoms may cause intestinal irritation, nausea, diarrhea, or vomiting. Aspiration may be fatal in some situations, so you must seek immediate medical attention if swallowed, as aspiration can be fatal or dangerous. The ADS has decon kits. We have 1 4-ounce bottle of cleanse and soothe. So you pretty much, the cleanse is step 1 and the soothe is step 2. The cleanse, pretty much what this decon kit does is reduce the hangover time and limits reactivation of OC hangover. The decon kit must be used properly and follow the manufacturer's instruction. Saber decon process takes time to complete, and it normally has a 2-year shelf life. And a personal story from using this ADS decon kit, within 10 minutes of using the kit, I was able to open my eyes with little to no pain. My skin was burning, but my breath returned back normal after using this, from just personal using it after being sprayed with OC spray. Step 1, help prevent OC hangover by removing dead skin. So that cleanse, get that dead skin off. with a thorough rinse of the face about 30 seconds with water. So once you do it, you want to rinse your face about 30 seconds with water. And never squeeze a 2-inch diameter cleanse in your hand and rub directly over your eye. So basically what you want to do is put it in your, you want to put a 2-inch diameter in your hand, bigger than the size of a quarter, and you want to rub over your face but not directly over your eyes for about 30 seconds. And when you rinse, you want to rinse from the bridge of your nose across your face. So if you're doing your left eye, you want to put the hose coming from across your right eye and rinsing away from your body. You repeat the same steps with your right eye. If you're rinsing your right eye, you want to rinse coming across the left side of your face so the contaminant is going away from your body. But the cleanse allows the soap to get in your pores by removing the dead skin. If the OC hangover effects start back once you begin to perspire or take a hot shower, repeat the process if necessary with the cleanse. Step 2, soothe. Reduce redness, swelling, and pain. You want to decon both eyes one at a time for 5 minutes each. Thoroughly flush out each eye by running water from the bridge of the nose to the outside of the face again. Dry your hands and pat your face with a towel dry. And you want to apply about 1 diameter of Sabre Soothe to your hand and pat all over your facial area. Do not rinse the Soothe off your face. You want to let it air dry. Once the Soothe dries, the pain may return in 2 to 5 minutes, and you're going to repeat the process if necessary. So basically, in closing, this training was provided by Alabama Department of Public Health for Animal Defense Spray. And I am Willie J. Mason, Jr., Emergency Management Program Coordinator for Alabama Department of Public Health East Central District. And if you need any help or any information with hypos going over the policy, contact me. My number is 334-782-9450, and my email is willie.mason@adph.state.al.us. If you have any question again, or I can assist you in any way, please let me know. Thank you for your time, and thank you for attending this training.